I'm Representative Charles Thomson from District 58. Would my colleagues please introduce themselves?
Good morning, my name is Representative Samantha Fett from District 22 in Warren County.
Good morning, my name is Megan Shrivas. I represent part of the south side of Des Moines in District HD 30.
This is the subcommittee on House File 2309 versus rules under the First Amendment of the United States Constitution and applicable Iowa and federal law. This room is governed by appropriate time, place, and manner restrictions. Accordingly, there will be no shouting, no speaking out of turn, no protests. We will strictly respect the time limits, which will be 2 minutes following the first statement. And anyone violating these rules will be removed from the room and charges may be pressed. First up is Ms. Tucker. Would you care to say a few words?
My name is Terry Howard. I serve as a public library board trustee in Sioux Center, and I speak on behalf of myself in support of HF 2309. This bill is about protecting children. Across Iowa, minors currently have unrestricted access in public libraries to materials containing graphic depictions of sexual activity and sexual violence. We would not consider that developmentally neutral in any other public setting. Research links early exposure to sexually explicit material with increased anxiety, depression, compulsive behaviors, and higher risk sexual activity. Some studies suggest early sexualization can increase vulnerability to exploitation and trafficking, especially among already at-risk youth. Statistically, 1 in 10 children will experience sexual abuse before age 18. For those children especially, exposure to graphic sexual content can be deeply harmful. We're often told that parents must monitor what their children read. Parents absolutely play a central role, but institutions also carry responsibility. If parents are expected to be informed, it's reasonable to expect trained professionals who already rely on reviews and summaries to use those same tools to make age-appropriate placement decisions. Of note, author Chloe Walsh states on her own website that her books are intended for ages 18 and up due to their mature content, yet they're shelved in the 12 to 17-year-old section in libraries across Iowa. This bill does not ban books or restrict adult access. It simply recognizes that minors and adults are treated differently when it comes to sexually explicit material. On our Sioux Center Library Board, when we explored implementing reasonable safeguards, we were warned that doing so could jeopardize innovation because open access is treated as the default standard. That places local boards in a difficult position when trying to protect children. And the Sioux Center Board President has repeatedly asked that this issue be handled at the state level. HF 2309 restores clarity and allows common sense protections without fear. Protecting children should not be controversial. It should be foundational. Thank you.
Thank you. And as is our usual custom on hearings that have a lot of people, will go pro-con. So is there someone opposed to the bill who would like to step up and speak for 2 minutes? Sure. Please press the button on the right and state your name, where you're from, if you're representing a group.
Good morning, my name is Sam Pelvick, and I'm a 20-year librarian, Republican, and president of the American Library Association. I have come to this chamber this morning because for generations, Iowans of all walks of life have sent out a righteous cry. Free people, read freely. Iowans have more libraries per capita than any other state, and Iowa wrote the Library Bill of Rights 88 years ago here in Des Moines. 70% of Iowans own at least one library card. Again and again, Iowans have entreated you from the quiet places of our small towns and traveled at great personal sacrifice to these marble halls, not to ask for the change of microgovernments, but to ask for leadership that marches towards a prosperous tomorrow. Yet, House File 2309 is yet another retreat into the shadows of suspicion. It seeks to transform our sanctuaries of literacy and learning into sites of surveillance. It takes the librarian, often a volunteer, the carrying the burden of a community's dreams, and threatens them with the cold iron of criminal penalties and the crushing weight of financial ruin, not only for themselves, but possibly their small community. We must realize that the threat to the freedom of a local library is the threat to the freedom of a local soul, a threat to the freedom of each neighbor to choose from all possibilities what is best for themselves and for their families. You cannot build a great state on the quicksand of fear, control, and censorship. When you dictate the contents of our shelves from the heights of this Capitol, you are not protecting children. This isn't about ISPs or social media or screen time. You are eroding the very foundation of local trust and community conscience. Iowans are conscientious. Iowans know how to raise their families in libraries without government intervention. I ask you today to set aside the unsharpened scalpel of age-appropriate and presumptive harm, which we all know will be litigated and cost our taxpayers as much money as Senate File 496 has. As leaders, you should set aside the divisiveness of state-mandated walls, which cannot be accommodated in our tiny libraries. Let us refuse to be an Iowa that polices the mind, and instead be a state that empowers the spirit. Give our library communities the breadth of your support, not the chokehold of this legislation. I urge you to no vote.
Thank you for your comments. I forgot to mention, if you're reading a statement, that's fine. I would ask, so that we can maintain a file on this, could you please email that to a member of the committee or Ms. Willie or open staffer, and we will make sure that that's included. Thank you. Are you in favor of this? 2 minutes, please.
Okay. Hello, my name is Anita Fisher. I am a parent, grandparent, and a concerned citizen of Iowa, also a member of Protect My Innocence. This is a statement from an 18-year-old from Pella. At the time of her experience, she was a sophomore in high school. I'll be purposely withholding her name. The following is her speaking. A friend of mine had recommended an author. So when I saw a book by this author in the new young adult section of my local public library, I thought I would try it. It looked interesting, and it had been given the Iowa High School Choice Award. So I assumed the content would be appropriate for my age. Little did I know that this could not be further from the truth. I was a sophomore in high school and was 15 when I picked up this book, along with another book by the same author. However, the content in these books was far from age appropriate. Both had explicative and highly inappropriate explicit sexual content. As a 15-year-old, I found this extremely disturbing. The one book was given the Iowa High School Choice Award. Tell me, is this truly the best Iowa has to offer us? Unfortunately, her 9-year-old sister experienced a similar situation, only this time it was given as a prize for a summer reading program. She goes on, no matter how I try to scrub my conscience clean of these sexually charged scenes, my mind remains polluted. No matter how hard I try to regain my innocence, it has already been stolen in a way that I can never get back. We were never warned, never cautioned, never told what our minds were about to consume. We were simply poisoned. No one warned my sister and I, but it doesn't have to be that way for others. I plead with you, change it for them, protect their innocence, guard their minds. Warn them before they consume this poison too. This is just one story out of many. Sadly, many children never come forward out of embarrassment and shame.
Ma'am, I think we're out of time.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there someone against the bill who would like to
If you want, I can just give this to you guys afterwards. Button on the right. Button on the
The
right.
one on the right.
Xavier Kerrigan, I'm Joaquin, members of the subcommittee. I'm a former educator and a lifelong reader. I'm here because book banning is not about protecting students. It's about controlling which ideas they are allowed to encounter. You cannot claim to defend freedom while restricting what people are permitted to read. Freedom of thought with political filter is not freedom, it's control. I was educated on difficult books, books that challenged power, exposed injustice, questioned systems, and forced us to think. We did not become broken from reading them. We became capable of judgment because of them. When leaders say they support free speech, but move to remove books that question their worldview, that is not principle, that is hypocrisy. It says speech is fine as long as it agrees with us. Thought is fine as long as it stays inside approved boundaries. That is not education, that is intellectual confinement. Students are being told they cannot be trusted with complexity, that someone else must pre-screen ideas for them, that curiosity needs permission. That is a dangerous lesson in a democracy. The books most often targeted are the ones that question hierarchy, question injustice, or give voice to people outside the dominant narrative. That is not coincidence. Strong ideas do not need shelves cleared to survive, only fragile ones do. If a book is wrong, challenge it. If an idea is flawed, debate it. Do not ban it. Banning is what you do when you are afraid your argument cannot win in the open. A confident society does not fear books. Free people do not need their reading list approved by the state. Trust students. Trust teachers. Defend freedom fully, not selectively. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there someone who favors the bill would like to speak? Please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Jeff Pitt, speaking for the Iowa Faith and Freedom Coalition. You know, we have two dedicated groups that stand before us today. Both care deeply about our communities, both love libraries, but after years of listening to these passionate voices clash in subcommittee rooms, one truth stands out. We are arguing, but we are not engaged in the same argument. Our side insists on straightforward expectation. Iowa's taxpayer-funded libraries must, above all else, provide a safe and innocent space for children to learn and grow and thrive. For us, the #1 priority for a public library should be to provide a secure place where parents don't have to shield the eyes, ears, and minds of their children. Every other worthy objective ranks well below this one. A 5-year-old in a library should not be less safe from porn and obscene and sexually explicit materials than while in the public square. The other side seeks a different prize, if I'm hearing them. They also want fantastic libraries, but they prioritize near total, unfettered access to every piece of information imaginable. They don't directly oppose being family friendly, not in principle, but it isn't their North Star. Instead, they assert that libraries must offer access to almost any content, including some explicit or obscene materials, and then just let the chips fall when they may. So here we are, two distinct visions, two conflicting priorities. Are these ideas mutually exclusive? Perhaps, but perhaps not. This bill presents the potential for a workable middle ground. It honors the core concerns of both sides, putting safety of the children first.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, if we could hear from someone from opposed to the bill.
Yeah,
Before you start, let me just remind people, we're used to this, but people who aren't in the Capitol a lot may not know it. When you finish speaking, could you turn the microphone off? Otherwise, we'll get some screeching from the ether.
very good. Keenan Crowe, 1 Iowa. I'll keep my comments brief. I assume everyone in the committee understands my position on censorship. Let's look at this from a very pragmatic lens. I want to think about how much time it is going to take folks to review all these materials so that they are not actually going to be in danger of any of the penalties in this bill. And I'll take, since I'm a Des Moines resident, carry my Des Moines library card with me everywhere, the Des Moines Library. The Des Moines Public Library has 552,000 items on its shelf. Now, if we assume that those have an average of about 100 pages in them, which I think is a fair assumption, and we assume that it's going to, that our full-time employee is going to work 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year, it would take 442 full-time employees a year to review all of the materials on those shelves, assuming that we're reading at the average about a page a minute. I don't see any money in this bill in order to do that. And I don't think that that is a reasonable thing to ask our folks to do without that additional funding. And again, that is one library out of hundreds across the state. We are looking at an investment of millions upon millions of dollars in order to do this effectively. And so I would ask folks to think about the reality of that situation and please vote against this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there someone in favor of the bill who would like to speak?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Good morning, representatives. Thank you for just allowing the space to have this conversation. I'm here as a concerned parent in support of 2309, HF 2309. Public libraries are government entities, and they should be held to the same standards under Iowa law as any other public institution when it comes to explicit sexual content accessible to minors. I would like to make 3 simple points. Iowa law clearly defines sexual acts in explicit detail. The statute outlines conduct including penetration, oral genitalia contact, use of artificial sexual devices, and other graphic acts. These definitions are specific and leave little room for confusion. Public libraries are taxpayer-funded government institutions. Parents should not have to worry that materials containing graphic depictions that match the legal definition of sexual acts are freely accessible to children in publicly funded spaces. This is about accountability and consistency under the law. If Iowa law sets standards regarding explicit sexual content, government entities, including public libraries, should follow these standards consistently. This bill is not about banning books. It's not about silencing viewpoints. It's about ensuring that sexually explicit material, as defined in Iowa statute, is not accessible to minors in public taxpayer-funded libraries. As a parent, I'm asking for clear guidelines, consistent enforcement, respect for parental authority, and alignment with Iowa law. Public institutions should reflect community standards and protect children first. HF 2309 creates this clarity, accountability, and aligns public libraries with Iowa standards for protecting minors. In response to the time that it would take, fortunately, there are already many websites that have started putting rating systems, the same that you would see for movies on some of these books. It might save quite a bit of time and taxpayer money to start using some of those ranking systems. This is not about removing the books from libraries, it's about making them unavailable to minors and setting them into a different space. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there someone opposed to the bill who would like to speak? Please go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Leslie Noble. I'm here today on behalf of the Iowa Library Association, which is opposed to HF 2309. This bill would create confusion, liability, and inequity for public libraries and their patrons in communities all across Iowa. HF 2309 would create blanket, one-size-fits-all restrictions on materials that would impose significant administrative and technological burdens on libraries, particularly in small and rural communities. It would strain already tight budgets and limited staff time. In some communities, compliance with this bill may all but be impossible without restricting minors' access to library collections altogether. This would result in reduced services to families and young people. The risk of civil and criminal liability will deter individuals from serving their communities on library boards or working in libraries. Municipal insurance coverage could become more expensive or unavailable if insurers view these new liabilities as unmanageable. HF 2309 is a regulation in search of a problem. Illegal content is already illegal. Libraries do not provide unlawful materials, and existing state and federal laws prohibit the distribution of obscene or illegal content. Libraries have established policies and procedures to manage materials, address concerns, and respond to challenges. Parents have the ability to guide and supervise their own children's library use. This bill replaces local control and professional standards with a rigid, punitive framework that will harm communities across Iowa. This is one of several unnecessary, counterproductive anti-library bills in the legislature this year. Libraries and library workers are not the enemy. We are the hearts of our communities, serving people every day. We provide resources for learning and entertainment. We offer programs that enrich minds and strengthen families. We provide community gathering spaces. Putting extra burdens like HF 2309 on our libraries hurts not just these vital institutions, but also the communities and the Iowans they serve. Please oppose this unnecessary legislation.
Thank you. Is there someone who supports it? We'll just keep you apprised of where we're going here. At about 7, well, maybe after the speaker, we'll go to the comments of the members of the subcommittee, and then we'll wrap it up. Go ahead.
My name is Patty Alexander, and I'm here as a mom and a concerned citizen. I love taking my child to the library, and this bill is a protection for librarians and young children. We already, as a society, recognize that people and children, adults and children's brains are wired differently in our ratings of movies. We don't allow children under 18 to go to sexually explicit movies Why would sexually explicit materials in the public library be any different? This bill is a solution to the situation that happened in Sioux City a few weeks ago, where a minor checked out a book intended for an adult, and that book was recommended by the librarian. And many authors deem their books available or written for adults or young teens or children. Authors already recognize that children's brains are different. Parents must get their children a library card already, and when applying, it would be easy for the parent to sign a consent, allowing their child to check out adult materials. Library cards could be a different color or a different orientation, such as portrait or landscape. This bill recognizes that parents have the ultimate say in the materials their children have access to. And it's common sense to have a clearly marked adult section away from the children's section, especially in this day and age. We continuously hear about sexual predators living in our community. Keeping children out of adult sections in the library is just another step in keeping our communities safe. This bill continues to give access to adult books deemed for adult literature. There is no book banning that you're saying is happening. Public libraries can and should remain a community safe space for all families. Please continue to build trust and restore family values and advance this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone be opposed to the bill?
My name is Melissa Peterson. I represent the Iowa State Education Association, and we are we are registered in opposition to this bill. We have a great number of concerns, but we particularly oppose the elimination of the exemption of 728 as it pertains to educational materials in particular. We have a number of other concerns, including the fact that we believe this would allow for an unprecedented ability for someone without standing to go after a public library from a legal perspective. The penalties are quite severe and could lead to the jailing of educators in this space, which we think is not appropriate considering all of the other guardrails we have in place related to age-appropriate material. We think it's really important for us to not do anything in this body that would create a chilling effect and reduce access of students to quality learning of materials, and that definition can look different, but remember, we have guardrails in place. We have had lots of conversation over the last couple of years. I would just like to leave you with an understanding that we also have a lot of school districts that partner with public libraries. They need to do that for a whole host of reasons, and by the way, those partnerships have happened for decades without issue. We would encourage parents to be very proactive in the space. Have conversations with your children about what your family considers to be appropriate, but don't restrict everyone else's access, again, to age-appropriate material as is clearly defined in our statute. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone for the comments. If anyone else who has comments, feel free to email them in. We will look at all of them. Representative Srinivas, we have about 7 minutes, so why don't we split it about 2 minutes?
Can I ask a question? Perfect. I do notice that there are a couple of representatives of cities and counties here, and I'm curious, looking at this bill, it seems like there's a lot of liability potential costs for cities and counties. Would any of you be able to share with me the impact of this, and if this would even be feasible with the really strict budgets that we're seeing and people really trying to live day to day and off on a deficit right now?
Chelsea Boyd, representing the Iowa League of Cities. We are registered in opposition to the bill largely for the liability implications. This legislation waives governmental immunity and makes cities vicariously liable for library decisions, exposing taxpayers to statutory damages up to $10,000 per item. So even with good faith defense, the risk of litigation alone could be very crippling for our small town libraries. So we are very concerned about the implications of this legislation.
And I'm Jamie Cashman with the Iowa State Association of Counties. We're registered undecided, but we would share the concerns of the cities. Just wanting to know what defines operating in terms of counties and cities, and then also what is vicariously liable. And so in this debate over property tax and stress on counties right now, increased possibility for increased litigation, we have major concerns about that, so thank you.
Thank you so much for your answers. I don't want to take up too much time. I'll just say really quickly that I'm really concerned about the fact that this bill lacks a lot of definitions that can be subjectively applied rather than objectively applied. And that could put many people at risk, educators, our volunteer librarians, and really endanger the existence of many libraries, especially in rural areas. And the cost seems extremely prohibitive, as well as the fact that this ultimately would fall on cities and counties, and the way that they make up that cost is increasing property taxes. When Iowans are living paycheck to paycheck right now, can't even afford bags, this is not what we should be doing. We should not be raising property taxes and putting more onus on taxpayers for an educational access that should be given to everybody. So with that, I will be voting no. Thank you.
I just have a question for the president of the Iowa Library Association.
I'm not the president.
Okay. Can I,
Or-
I would like the Iowa representation, please.
Just so you know, I'm not the president.
Okay. What was your position?
I'm on the Government Affairs Committee.
Great. Okay. So my two quick questions for you are, what percentage of libraries right now have young adult sections, children's sections set up?
I can't give you a percent, but I would say it's probably very standard that there is a children's section, a young adult or teen section, as well as an adult section.
Okay. And then as far as access to materials online and the computers that are in the library, is it true that most libraries have filtering software to filter out inappropriate sexual content as when children use those computers?
Yes, libraries comply with the Children's Internet Protection Act to avoid, obscene content being accessed by children.
Thank you so much. I will also keep my comments short. I just want to state that the structures of our public libraries right now already have sections for children, young adult sections, adult sections. So to say that this is going to cost too much money to protect children is an excuse. The libraries are already protecting children online, as we heard. So this is just a way for parents to have some trust in their local public libraries, that when those children walk in to the library, whether they're on a field trip with school, whether they're with their parents or not with their parents, that they're not going to be exposed to explicit materials. This is about integrity of our public libraries. And I look forward to signing off on this, and thank you, Representative Thomson, for bringing it forward.
Thank you to everyone who's been represented at this subcommittee. I appreciate your coming out at the early hour. It was the only time we could get it to work. This is coming in the final week, and the schedule is crazy and inconvenient for everybody. I am going to advance this bill. I heard a lot of comments about a bill other than this. Somebody mentioned banning books. This doesn't ban a single piece of paper. This restricts access to minors and puts the access decision in up to the parents where it should be. This is not enforcing some weird new definition. This picks up word for word, essentially, the Ginsburg parameters from the U.S. Supreme Court, which is decades old standard, with which I would think most librarians would be familiar. So I will be again voting to advance this. I appreciate all of your time, and thank you for the discussion. That concludes the subcommittee.